Okay,
All
we did it.
right. All right. Two
Welcome back.
weeks. 2 weeks have gone by. There's lots to talk about. Lots. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I don't know if it was the most exciting
Uh,
race of them
Yeah,
all.
actually, before we start, so I went to
All right.
Denver this last week,
Mm-hmm.
and I made a new friend, and I promised that I was gonna shout him out in this in
All
this
right.
podcast.
Sounds
So
good.
this podcast will be for Adam. Adam is like
Nice.
he says that. Well, he says he was gonna subscribe, but now I'm gonna send him this clip and be like, Adam, what's up?
All right, Adam. There you go, Adam. You got your shout out in this in our full 2 hour show. You got your shout out. so so
Cool. So yeah,
yeah, so no,
Spain.
Spain. Good. Well, I don't know. I feel like it's this year it's been kind of odd in the sense that like the very first race was like the best one, and then slowly they've been just getting worse.
Yeah,
I feel like every weekend that we come on, I'm like, okay, this one was good, but
it's
it
not
wasn't as
as
good.
exciting. Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's obviously there hasn't been a fight for the lead on the past couple of races.
Yeah.
Like like on the last few stages of the race, like, oh, what's gonna happen? So you don't have like when you watch qualifying, you have that crescendo that like the whole time it's building up and you feel like, oh, something's gonna happen. Let's see how it ends. And this one's you can actually see how the race is gonna end very like early on. So
Yeah.
now, but I don't think that's bad. Like the races in them like on their own are pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not like a sport really that has that, like I guess basketball or American football are like that. Sometimes soccer could be like that, but like
Hmm.
sometimes like if they're down 2-0 and there's like 2 minutes left in soccer,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, let's leave.
Yeah. There's
uh
few sports that are like
like nail
consistently
biters, yeah.
every single game is like a nail biter, like it doesn't happen. So yeah, so this is what like an average like race looks like from Formula One, which if you think about it, I mean it's like a huge improvement from what was the average race like 20 years ago. I mean we talk about this all the time, but it's like yeah, so there were a few passes, but at least
Overtakes.
yeah, yeah, a
Yeah.
few overtakes, but at least there's tension throughout the race, At least like you're like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna do this, that, and that? But in the past, it was always the case that there would just be like 20 seconds between like two drivers, and there was never any tension of any passes or
Yeah.
anything like that.
And yeah, and we can probably talk about some of these things. We can actually get right into it in one of the main topics of the race, just because we're talking about overtakes. But like, obviously, we had the issue with Max Verstappen and the DRS not opening for a couple of laps.
Yeah.
Max Verstappen said that it was like 20 laps, but I don't think he was 20 laps stuck behind George Russell. Um,
It felt long. It felt long to me. I don't know if it was 20 laps, but it did feel long.
uh, but this is like a thing like you were just saying, like DRS didn't exist in Formula One
Hmm.
forever. That's been like a development in the past 12 years of the sport.
Yeah.
That is like it is very effective and doing what it's supposed to do, which is aiding overtaking. But when we started watching Formula One, DRS didn't exist, and you would get things like what you get in Spain, which would be there's the famous Fernando Alonso and Michael Schumacher in Imola. I think
Mhm.
it's in 2005 or 2006, either one of those years, that Alonso just holds Michael Schumacher back for like the last 10 laps of the race. And you just see it, and like there's no DRS at the time. So Michael
Mhm.
Schumacher is clearly faster than Alonso, but Alonso is just like expertly defending. Kind of like George Russell, like knows how to defend. And like all these drivers know how to defend like that,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
before Formula One, the like carts don't have DRS or anything like that. It's just about how skillful you are at defending in these like single seaters.
Mhm. Yeah.
So the drivers can do that, and it is needed in Formula One that like if a car is just faster than you, they should overtake you, because these cars are not as easy to overtake if you don't have like somebody to aid them.
Yeah. Like a little
Um,
boost.
yeah, but but there were people online saying that like, oh, this is a main example of why we no longer need DRS because look, the
No, come on.
sport it's so exciting to see people like fighting like George Russell and like defending in that aspect.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I don't know. I think that's I think like be careful what you wish for, like people don't know what they're asking for. Like I know, especially maybe for a lot of the new viewers or a Formula One, not of our show,
Yeah.
but for a lot of the new F1 viewers, like it seems like isn't that like manipulating it? Isn't that like maybe like fixing the race a little bit so that like a car passes another? But that is not the case. That is not the case at all.
Oh, you're saying that like DRS feels like you are artificially creating an overtake.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And then you're saying that that's not the case.
Right, exactly. Because I mean, it would perceive like if you're new to the sport, you're like, well, why do they do that? Why can't they just pass each other like normally, like on the track? Like, let's see who the faster car is. But like, the thing is that the straights are not long enough for like a car. Like the speed difference of a car that's faster than the other is not enough. So like at the end of a straight, a car can pass. So I mean, when that's the case, I mean, you just got to think about it. Like the difference is really, really small from like 10 to like 15 miles per hour. No, even that seems too much. It's probably like 0 to 10 miles per hour difference if you're just a little bit faster on the streets. You cannot pass on that distance without the aid of something. But the faster car, well, it's faster like in a lot of other places. So like it's important for those faster cars to be able to pass so that we can so that we can get going with the racing. If you're just stuck behind a slower car, then like what's the fun? I mean, like, yeah, like you think like, I mean, it's been a boost, but it's like it's just a more natural way for these cars to race because otherwise there's no overtake. Otherwise, like there's very little overtakes, there's very little action, and there's a bunch of like traffic all the time, and like but like unnecessary traffic.
Yeah, and then the other thing that you get is that when we used to watch the sport, and like we're talking about 22 years ago when we first started watching it, that was something that DRS didn't exist. And so what you would see often is that like you would get the car in front defends really well for a long period of time to the point that the car behind starts overheating because they're driving on the dirty air of the car in front. So they're trying to overtake, they can't. They're trying to overtake, they can't. Now the car overheats, so now you need to pull back on purpose a little bit better. Like you pull back, it's like I cannot be so close to the car in front. Now I have to be like 3 to 5 seconds behind, so I have some clean air, so my engine can cool down, so I can try to attack them again. And then I can try to attack them, and then I can't overtake him because it's impossible to overtake.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, now my car overheats. Now it goes back.
Yeah.
And then like over time, they're like, okay, we're never gonna overtake each other. So let's just drive farther back. And then like the races would end and the first person would end with like 20 seconds ahead of the second driver, and the second driver like 30 seconds ahead of the third driver. And it's like, I just watched an entire race and there was no overtakes. Yeah. Nothing happened. I'm just like, so yes, it would be really exciting when you get drivers that could actually overtake under those conditions. Montoya is like the guy that would do it constantly with Michael Schumacher, and that's why like it was so exciting. But that doesn't mean that like you just need all drivers like that. Oh yeah, because it's so easy, it's not really that easy, and especially with the cars from before, maybe a little bit easier because they were smaller, but the cars right now are so big. And also before, the cars were not fully loaded with fuel. Mm-hmm. They were smaller, nimbler, and then
they would pit for the fuel. Yeah,
they would pit for fuel, so the cars would never be fully fueled up. Therefore, they were even lighter, and they could like manage their cars better and fight each other to try to overtake without the aid of DRS. Now the cars are way heavier, much bigger, and they're fully loaded with fuel. So trying to manage that heavy of a car and try to overtake without DRS, it's nearly impossible. Like, and like you can see like Max Verstappen, who can arguably, you can say like has the fastest car out there. Arguably, like not definitely.
Well, he's certainly driving the fastest, but yes.
Yeah. and you can say he's the fastest guy out there besides Charles, and he couldn't overtake George Russell. So
who's a much slower car. I mean, maybe not the slowest car, but like the Mercedes are slower this year. I mean, as of right now.
yeah, so well, not maybe not in this specific race, but anyway.
Yeah, no,
But
in any case,
yeah,
I think I've always said it that if you were to name like the top 5 or like top 10 innovations of Formula One or in Formula One, I would say the DRS is number one. Like there's just no question about it. Like it is what the sport needed. You go back and watch it like 20 years ago, it barely feels like a sport. It feels like an activity. When you see it today, it's like action packed. Like I mean, like races are just full of like overtakes, way more than we ever saw in the past. And it's every single race. Every single race there is like some sort of action, some sort of overtake, some sort of strategy, perhaps. All of these things which you never got before, and it's like yeah, I mean, it changed the sport, but 100% for the better. It's also more natural racing, in my opinion. To me, it feels like yeah, a little turbo. It's kind of cool, right? A little action on your like racing. It's pretty cool.
yeah. There's another thing that people are saying, like, oh, it was kind of exciting to see that Verstappen, who is in the faster car, didn't have DRS. So maybe Formula One should implement something like what they do in Formula E. Do you know what they do in Formula E?
No, I don't know what they're doing. Formula E.
Formula E have like this. I don't know if the equivalent to DRS in Formula E, which is like they have an extra 20%, 20 extra horsepower on their battery because Formula E is electric. And then every race they select like I think a random 6 drivers.
Oh.
And then those 6 drivers get an extra 20%, 20 extra horsepower on their car for the race. And I'm like, okay. And then you don't know who it is. So it's exciting.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, that okay. So see, now that is not. Well, I don't know. I'm not a viewer. Maybe there's people that enjoy that. Maybe it's more for the fun of it.
Also,
I wouldn't call
and
that
also in
pure
Formula,
racing,
yeah, and also in Formula E, you know how in Formula One we have like the driver of the day, and you get to vote for that.
Yeah.
You can also vote to give a driver an extra 20%, an extra 20 horsepower on their car.
Oh wow!
Every lap.
Every lap.
Yeah, so you choose like, oh, this lap I want this guy, and then like they get like a random, like the most voted driver gets like a 20 extra horsepower.
That's insane. What
Like I know, like I understand that, like, oh, for the viewer it's fun because you're engaging, but I'm like, what are we racing here? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's actually kind of bizarre. That I don't know what kind of sport is that? Sorry, what kind of sport? Like, I don't know. That's not pure racing. That's not like. I mean, again, maybe it's more for the entertainment, which maybe other driving categories probably have to
Yeah, they have to entertain their viewers
to remain entertaining. Yeah, but yeah, it feels. I guess that feels very unnatural to me.
Okay.
All right.
Another thing that happened in this race that people sort of complained about was the team orders from Red Bull,
yes,
from Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. What do you think of that? I don't know if you have any thoughts. I can go a little more in depth.
No, big time. I mean, this is really this was a cherry on top of the cake at the end of the weekend, where I was feeling like this weekend suck. Not because it wasn't fun, not because it wasn't a fun race, but because my guy went out and like I wanted Leclerc. He was winning, obviously. But
Leclerc was definitely gonna win that race.
I mean, he had it. I mean, there was no way that anything could have happened except for that, for him to lose. Even like a safety car, I think at this point was completely fine. Anyway, so to me that kind of sucked because like, okay, so I was like, okay, Leclerc is out, but at least Verstappen, there may be some drama between Checo and Verstappen now that he's catching up to him, but then he just catches up to him and they're like, let him go. And it's kind of like, I mean, all right, as a team, I can understand that decision. But if I'm Perez, I'm like, the fuck is going on? Because Perez is still fighting for the championship. I mean,
Yes.
he's literally like well, before this weekend, he was less than 20 points away from Verstappen. So like conceivably, he is in the race for the championship as well.
Yeah.
So why would you ask it? Like, how do you think a driver will feel that is on those conditions? Like, maybe possibly fighting for a championship, and you're telling him like, no, we're not gonna give you victory. We're gonna give the other guy the victory, and you don't even get to race him. I don't know. I think that's pretty infuriating. It's probably
Yeah.
again like the right call for Red Bull, but you know.
I thought so I didn't get too angry until later on in the race. Like I think Perez was stuck behind Russell for a while, and Perez had DRS and couldn't get past Russell for a couple of laps. Verstappen was second place at that point, and then Verstappen made the uncharacteristic mistake. He went off and then got overtaken by George and Sergio. And my thought was like, okay, Verstappen is probably going to catch up to Perez and to Russell. And then they're going to tell Verstappen to let him pass so Verstappen can overtake Russell easy, like, you know, and then he can keep going on his race. And then Perez will then try to get Russell because Perez had been trying to get Russell for a couple of laps already. So I think Verstappen was like 3 seconds behind Perez or 3 to 5 seconds after he made the mistake. And then Verstappen caught up to Perez. And then they told him, let him pass. I think they also told him at that point in time that if Verstappen doesn't get past Russell, that they were going to swap the cars back. That's what they told Perez. And so Verstappen got ahead of Perez. And then Verstappen couldn't overtake Russell. And then also there's the issue that like, well, he can't overtake him because his DRS is fucked up. So I think Red Bull put themselves in this predicament where like, we know that Verstappen can overtake Russell, but his DRS is fucking up. And Perez is now upset because he's seeing that Verstappen is not able to overtake Russell. And now you're damaging his race. And you're saying that the guy in front is also not capable of getting the job done. And it's not really the guys in front, like it's not Verstappen's fault either. He's trying his best, but his car is not working. So Red Bull kind of like shot themselves in the foot there, and they upset both drivers, and they're trying to appeal to like Verstappen, like, we know it's not your fault. Try pressing the button once, like don't go crazy. Verstappen is furious as well.
Because at this point in the race, also Leclerc was winning, and like you could tell that Verstappen was like tilting, like he was raging because he couldn't do anything, and like I mean, not a lot of the radio was shown on the TV, but like on the little bits that you could hear, you sounded like he was very stressed.
Verstappen was very stressed. Like really upset, like, and then you can see him almost like at some point, I think in turn 7, his car like went like
I feel like because I feel like after Leclerc retired, he was like, oh, I don't care anymore.
I don't care, we're gonna be fine,
everything's good, who cares, as a matter of fact, I'm just gonna win this race. So it's like I feel like that's the thing about the Leclerc incident that like really I feel like bummed me out. That it's not so much like, okay, he loses points. I think he's still in good spirits. It's not his fault. It just happens. But it's as much as like it doesn't mess up like the Verstappen psyche, the mental. I feel because now I feel like he's just great. Now he's back ahead in the championship, or ahead for the first time. Caught up in points, caught up on incidents, race wins, and all that. And now, I mean, like this, when he drives with an easy head, when he's not stressed at all, that's when Verstappen wins races. That's when Verstappen, is at his best. So the fact that like he got that boost mentally, it's really a bummer. It's really a bummer for me that like I mean I'm not rooting for Verstappen. Even though I do think he's the fastest driver. I mean in general I'm not a fan. So
but what was I gonna say? This is a thing like obviously what Red Bull ended up doing obviously is that they pitted then Perez. I think they pitted Verstappen and then they pitted Perez really late, like almost forcing him to a one stop. I think they said at some point, and then like it turned out like the best like strategy
Right.
for the race was like a three stopper.
Yeah.
So Perez ended up having to do a race on a two stop. So Red Bull is like not even favoring the strategy towards Sergio either.
Yeah.
And this is like a thing, for example, that like I was saying, it's just a little too early in the season to define it. But also it's like, is it or is it not as to like whether team orders should be a thing? In 2002, for Ferrari, I'm pretty sure you remember the incident,
Between
but in
Barrichello and Schumacher.
between Barrichello and Schumacher in Austria in 2002. I think it was like the fifth or sixth race of the season, and Barrichello was winning the race, and he was the second Ferrari driver, and then Schumacher, like the team explicitly, like there's a radio, you can look it up on YouTube, where like the Ferrari team boss is like, Rubens, you need to let Michael pass for the championship. And I'm like, what? For the championship? We're like in the fifth race of the year. What are you talking about? And then Schumacher does that. Like Barrichello ends up like letting Schumacher overtake him on the last lap of the race on the main straight, and then everybody just boos Ferrari. And team orders were like very frowned upon for a very long time in Formula One because people want to see drivers race.
Yep.
If they tried banning team orders out of Formula One, where like you're not allowed to tell your drivers what to do, like when it comes to like racing, but they never were able to really do that. Like eventually it became a like a coding thing. There's like also the famous incident that like is Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso. That is like, Felipe, Fernando is faster than you. It's like,
Oh yeah.
confirm that you get this message, you know? And then like it's like, okay, so Fernando is faster than you just means like let Fernando fucking pass.
Yeah.
Or then there's the famous multi 21 from Red Bull, where they tell Sebastian is like, hey, Sebastian, this is like multi 21, which means that the second driver ends in front of the first driver. And Sebastian was like, well, fuck that. I'm just going to overtake him. And he disregards team orders, which were not allowed. But then Formula One realizes like, we can't stop teams from like, how do we know what's a team order and what isn't?
Yeah.
So now they just let team orders be a thing. It's just a part of the sport. But it's like, should they be implementing them so early in the season, Red Bull?
I mean, yeah, I don't think so. but it is. I mean, it's not a secret that like.
But so the question would be like, yeah, the question is like, do you think Sergio Perez will fight for the championship, or is it gonna be Verstappen?
I don't know. I honestly, I guess I would say in this occasion, I know that like we wanted the controversy here, but in reality, it was probably the right call for Red Bull to do that. It just sucks because we didn't even get the fight, but like I'm like 100% sure that Verstappen would have just passed Perez.
Yeah,
like no question.
Well, if it would have been,
and then he just went a bunch of seconds ahead, like immediately. So
if it would have been Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen, we would have seen the fight.
Yeah, we would have seen, because, well, I mean, because Perez is too good of a teammate, I think, or like he like cooperates a lot, which as Verstappen, that's exactly what you want as your teammate, and that's the reason why like Ricciardo was at odds with Red Bull, is because that is the Max Verstappen team. It's not. I mean, it has two drivers, but they really are like putting all their marbles on Verstappen. So like, if he's going faster, he has a faster car. Like they're gonna tell him like move out of the way. I mean, it's just what's gonna happen. Why? Because yes, I mean the fans hate it, but like it makes their number one driver happy, and like him happy is him winning championships. So
yeah.
So yeah.
Also, like we see it like now, like, oh, that's not like the right thing, but like, how dumb does Red Bull then look later in the season if they lose the championship?
Yeah.
And everybody can point back to the Spanish Grand Prix. It's like, remember when you didn't let like Sergio Perez let Verstappen through? So
Yeah.
you should have just told him, and you would have won the championship.
Mhm.
Like, they would look really dumb if like you can pinpoint exactly which race they lost the championship on if they would have just given the team orders. So
Exactly.
yeah, the teams are gonna do that. It's just part of the sport. It just sucks when it happens to a driver that you feel like that you like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the other thing is that it really doesn't happen a lot on other teams. Like the closer was like Bottas to Hamilton, but even then, Bottas was never really like, I don't know, he was never really racing Lewis too much. If Lewis was coming faster, he would just let him by.
Yeah.
Um, like I don't know. I guess it was never really a question for
Like
Bottas.
Bottas tried to like be a little bit of a rebel, like, oh, I'm gonna go for the fastest lap in what was it, in Sandford, and then they told him abort, and then he still got it, and I'm like, you're like 13, like what are you doing? Like Bottas is like, I'm a rebel, I'm faster than Hamilton, bro. You're ending 13 this race. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I did feel bad for Bottas at the last few races, or I mean, or I guess I don't know, for the last few years after
Yeah,
in Mercedes.
I don't think he was the greatest driver to be in Mercedes.
No, but he was fast. He was just not as fast as Hamilton. Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, yeah, there were just times where like he had to like Lewis through. So a lot of times he looked like he was a Lewis wingman, but like I mean, as we're
Now,
seeing now, he really can. He really is a fast driver, very fast driver.
yeah, to open a parenthesis on Bottas, I don't think he was that good in Mercedes. I think he's always been fast, but we've always said that his racecraft uh, is
Not the
just
best.
really awful. He
Yeah.
doesn't know how to defend, and he doesn't know how to overtake unless he's significantly faster than the car in front of him.
Mhm.
So when he was in Mercedes, this was a couple of years ago because the regulations have changed a lot, but the cars had different engine modes.
Mhm.
Excuse me. So like on every engine mode, you can it's pretty much like turn the car up to 11 or turn the car down to like engine mode 1. So it depends on how much power you want to give the engine. And Mercedes have like the engine mode where like their 11 was like the better than everybody else's 11. So they could really turn up the engine, overtake all the cars, be in front, and then turn the engine down, and then people wouldn't be able to overtake him. It would be really difficult
Mhm.
because they would just defend. And Bottas was really good when that was a part of the sport. When like he could put the engine all the way to 11, overtake everybody, and try to win races, and that's when like Bottas challenging Hamilton and all of this happened. But then as soon as they're like, and you can pinpoint it, like exactly the period of time when he started sucking,
Mhm.
is when like they banned that. They were like, whatever engine you qualify on, whatever engine mode you qualify on, that's what you have to race for the entirety of the race.
Yeah.
So you can no longer put the engine on 11 an entire race because eventually the engine will not last.
Yep.
It will die. So Mercedes were forced to like keep lower engine modes. And then you had the issue that happens in Monza. I think that was when Pierre Gasly won
Mhm.
the race, where like Bottas was stuck the whole time, like in fourth
Behind.
or fifth place for the entire race. And I'm like, you're in a Mercedes. And then Lewis Hamilton came all the way from like 14 or from last place and got into the points almost. I think he overtook Bottas. I'm not even sure there.
Mhm.
But like, it's like you have a driver that like you have similar cars, and then Hamilton is able to do it no matter the engine mode, and Bottas can't. Even though
Yeah.
he's faster, he needs to be significantly faster to pass the guy in front.
Yeah.
So that's why like he's good right now. Bottas is really fast right now,
Mhm.
but he's not all that good unless he has a
Yeah.
definitely faster car than the other people.
And then he started like posting Instagram posts of
Oh,
like him and his engines and all that crap. Like like I don't know, essentially blaming the team for not from him not being faster. But I think it was always pretty obvious that he just, if he got stuck somewhere in the middle field, like he would be stuck there for a long time.
yeah.
Eventually, maybe sometimes he came out of it, but for the most part, he was stuck there for a long period of time, which never happens to Hamilton. For
Yep.
some reason, it never happens to
Well,
Hamilton.
it happened in this year in Imola when like he was stuck behind Pierre Gasly. But like in those years, it never happened to Hamilton, even though they
Mhm.
were driving the same car. So
Yeah.
can't say Bottas can't say anything about that. It's like, I'm sorry, you're only fast, or you can only win races if you have like the engine turned to 11.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay.
okay. Speaking of second drivers, let's talk about Carlos Sainz.
All right. Let's talk about Carlos Sainz.
I have a lot of criticism about Carlos Sainz. Uh, I don't
Yeah.
know if you are a little bit more empathetic, but I have a big criticism here.
Well, I guess yeah. I guess after he came back from his incident, he just recovered, and I stopped thinking about Carlos Sainz. So if you have strong thoughts, I want to hear them.
Yes. So I'll give you some context here. And obviously, as I give you context, you'll probably be like, yeah. And you'll get on the shit on Carlos Sainz. Well, I don't mean to purposely shit on Carlos Sainz. I think he's a good driver, but there are we've had a couple of years, for example, when Mercedes were winning every single race. And Hamilton and Bottas and Max Verstappen would be on the podium the whole time. And Red Bull struggled so hard to win races because the only driver fighting for another, like a win besides Hamilton, would be Verstappen. And the second driver at the time, it was Pierre Gasly, and he didn't do shit. Then Alex Albon, and then Red Bull screwed him over. Then you had Perez for a little bit of time that like he's just getting up to speed. So Verstappen Red Bull never had a way of challenging Mercedes, because Mercedes had two drivers at the front, and they can just play Verstappen like a fiddle every single time, and they would outsmart Red Bull because you had two drivers that you can put on two different strategies and force the Red Bull driver to do whatever you want him to do.
Yep.
So this is a race where like Carlos Sainz needs to be there to support Charles Leclerc. You know, you have a faster car. You're definitely winning the race with that car if you're Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen has a mistake, uncharacteristic mistake. Perez is stuck behind George Russell, and you have a car that is faster than all of these guys, and then you can't overtake any of them. You're also in a track that is your home Grand Prix. And you're not there. Like if anything had to happen for Carlos Sainz to win a race, it wasn't this race. Everything happened.
Everything that happened.
If you put like, oh, what requires Carlos Sainz to win a race, like by luck, it's like, well, you need Charles Leclerc to not finish the race. You need Verstappen to like
make a mistake,
and
then get stuck with his DRS.
Get stuck without DRS for like a big portion of the race. Have his teammate also be stuck behind a slower Mercedes car. Have Lewis Hamilton in the fucking back, you know? He has everything said like on a silver plate in his home Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And he doesn't win, like he ended fourth, but Hamilton was last and overtook him.
Yeah.
And the only reason Carlos Sainz overtook him back is because Hamilton had to lift so he wouldn't risk damaging the engine and not ending the race. So he got fourth by pure luck. And the commentators are like saying is like, oh, Carlos Sainz he should be happy ending fourth because this is his best result ever in his home Grand Prix. And I'm like, I wouldn't be happy if like he should have won the race.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if you think the same. I don't know.
No,
I have a big criticism on Sainz.
I think I totally agree. I feel like what you said actually does make a lot of sense. I think it's a race, yeah. That like all the conditions were there for him to win this race, and it's like once again like these tiny mistakes, which are like I don't know, like you're not supposed to like Sainz, who's been so consistent. You're not supposed to do that, or you're not supposed to be seeing that. He's just keeps making these mistakes and getting stuck behind, and then after that, he's also not as fast. Like he's not. I mean, Leclerc was gonna win this race, and he was like 9 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Like, and he was like lap 20. So it's like how is this happening that like Leclerc is going so fast and being in the right place at the right times, but you're not. Like, I don't know. I think it comes down to like
how are you being overtaken by the guy that's in last place, making his comeback on like a much slower car, like on a Mercedes, like Lewis Hamilton. I know it's Lewis Hamilton, and you can say like, oh, Lewis Hamilton, but it's like, but look at what like Hamilton was last,
yeah,
or second to last, but
yeah. Well, I don't know.
It's like there were not even safety cars for Hamilton to like
to be able to make that progress.
Yeah. It's like he did it purely just pace.
Yeah, actually, I mean, this is a little bit deviating from Carlos Sainz, but this Hamilton race was like incredible. I don't know, like it wasn't like shown on the TV as much, obviously because it's just Hamilton. But I mean, Hamilton went to the last place, like 30 seconds behind everybody. And then he came back and like literally passed like everybody all the way down to like fourth place until like he had to give it back. And not even because of his fault. That's unbelievable. And I know that there were people, I think Juan Pablo said that like he should have won this race. I'm like, yeah, actually this was a race that was totally possible for Hamilton to have won had he not had that incident with Magnussen.
Yep.
And it was actually, I know I was looking at some of the footage of just Hamilton's onboard, and like the passes that he was making was incredible. I mean, that pass on Bottas was beautiful. Like it was just like cleanly on the outside, came in with so much speed. Like to me, he was driving that Mercedes like on the edge, like at all times. He was just coming with so much speed. Which to me is a really good sign. I feel like the Mercedes are finally like catching up. But from Hamilton's perspective, I'm like, damn, dude, the guy still's got it. I mean, at some point, we look back and like objectively say, like, if you look at Hamilton's racecraft and just the way that he's able to catch up and do these incredible like feats every race, you will truly understand that like he is the GOAT. Like he is one of like, if not the greatest driver of all time, because I mean he still got it. He still can do like really incredible things. And I'm excited because I think the Mercedes have some battle left this year, and we're like barely even like a quarter, not a third in the season.
Yeah. Before fully diving into Mercedes, and even though we've already talked like this is a big time on Hamilton, that's okay. Any last thoughts on the Carlos Sainz rant that I had? Do we just move on and accept that, like, this guy just... Yeah. What does Carlos Sainz need to do now?
I think
to get back into it.
I think at this point it's just like, I think he needs to have consistent races again. You know, just like something took him off his mojo. No, you know what? I actually don't even think he's been off his mojo. He's been like driving well. It's just that like all these different incidents that happened, which seemed like strokes of bad luck, probably put him in a worse spot that he actually is in. So what I think it's just a matter of giving him time. I think if you give him like 3 races without incidents, by the 4th he's gonna be golden. You know, like he's gonna be like going fast again and like comfortable with the car again. But like it's just like all these little incidents are like taking a lot of toll.
Yeah, I haven't seen his interviews lately, so I don't know. Obviously, the only way that you can tell the mental state of a driver, us as like an audience, is by seeing like the drivers interact on the interviews.
Yeah, exactly.
So I haven't seen Carlos Sainz's interview.
And in the radios.
Yeah. So, but I hope that he's calm and collected, that he knows like, oh, this will pass. If
Mhm,
so, then I think he'll probably have a good weekend in Monaco.
mhm.
But if he's really kicking himself, like he was really upset. Like I keep saying it, like I think he just needs to be cool and collected and just like a solid driver. But in Bahrain, the first race of the season, he is mad that he got second place. And I'm
Yeah,
like, no, you did fine. You did what you needed to do. You just need to be there to fight the Red Bulls and be there to collect the pieces when like they break down and stuff, you know?
yeah,
Um, and he did that in Bahrain, but first he's just so angry at himself. And then on Saudi Arabia also, and then Australia, he makes the mistake, and then Imola, like he crashes out, and like he just, I don't know if he keeps being so hard on himself that he doesn't realize that he just needs to just keep it consistent,
yeah.
and that's all he
Dude.
needs.
And it's
Because
actually it's sorry. Go ahead.
no, yeah, because the last thing that he wants is be like really kicking himself in a race like Monaco, where you make
Yeah.
one mistake and you're fully out.
Yes. And that's what kind of what I was gonna say is that like actually Monaco is gonna be a great opportunity for him if he can, like be in a good spot mentally. Like because Leclerc is coming in from an incident that he had in this race. He wants to try to get immediately as much points as possible. But he
In
also
Monaco,
in
which is his home Grand Prix, so it's a lot of pressure for Leclerc.
which he's never finished on. So I think Leclerc probably the weekend for him is he's gonna be trying to be careful. Or at least like that's somewhere in his mind, I would think. Like he has to be careful. He has to finish the race. That it's very important for him to for the championship battle for him to finish this race.
Yeah. If anything, historically for Leclerc, this is the perfect circumstance for him to crash. There's a lot of pressure.
Yes.
He didn't finish the race before. He's losing ground in the championship against Max Verstappen.
Mhm.
It's his home Grand Prix where there's a lot of history of him making mistakes and crashing and never finishing his home Grand Prix. Even last weekend, crashing
Yeah.
in like
The
a
historic
event
Ferrari.
and the historic Ferrari just for show, and he crashes. So there's a lot of things that happen to him in his home Grand Prix that it puts so much pressure on him. And we know
Yeah.
that when Leclerc has a lot of pressure in like a certain event, he makes mistakes.
Incidents can
So
happen.
if
Yeah.
anything, like Leclerc needs to get all of that and just push it to a side and then be like, I just need to be calm. I just need to end the race.
Exactly. And what that means is that like he might not take as many risks as he has to. But if Carlos Sainz is there with the car, like with a good car, and I think Ferrari actually have the advantage for Monaco. I do. I think. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just faster
I
in all the
actually think that
corners.
even that Mercedes could have
To have a little go.
a go at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually that's probably true. Actually, I don't think the Red Bulls are gonna perform all that well, and maybe they will be fighting with the Mercedes. But I think as a whole, though, I think the Ferraris do have the advantage on this one. So if he's not, I mean, if he's not too scared and stuff, Sainz could easily out qualify Leclerc and then end up on the lead of well, not in the lead of the champion, on the lead of the race. So
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I think it's yeah, it's yeah, it's just a matter of like headspace. But that I think that's all we have to talk about for Carlos Sainz.
Okay.
All right.
So now let's continue the topic of conversation you were talking about, which is Mercedes, and not just Lewis Hamilton, but both George Russell and Lewis Hamilton and the team, like as a whole. Like it seems like they're finally fixing like their car, and they're no longer bouncing all over the track.
Yeah, yeah, really, no, really good progress by them and by Ferrari. Although Ferrari, like by Miami Grand Prix, they were fine, I think. And to a great extent, I think Mercedes as well. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to see that because we did that whole episode on like why it was like dangerous and like
Yep.
potentially even like harmful for the driver to be
Be
bouncing
bouncing.
around
Yeah.
all that much, like it could damage your brain, I thought. So yeah, no, it's good to see them. And again, yes, we were just talking about it, but it's only like the first third of the season. I mean, Monaco's gonna be what, the seventh or the sixth race? I think it's sixth, right?
Think the seventh race.
Maybe the sixth or the seventh. but in any case, I mean, it is the first third of the season. That I mean
Yes.
that's it. So I don't know. It's still early enough that like, and like the Mercedes are not that far back that like they can't compete for it. They can't get in there. They can get like maybe 2 or 3 wins by Hamilton or Russell. They could be competing for at least for the drivers' champion. I
For
mean,
the
for
constructors.
the constructor championship, and definitely, maybe, well, not definitely, but possibly, for more for the world championship as well, for the drivers'
Yeah.
championship.
And
So.
how do you see Russell and Hamilton? Like Russell has been performing really well. I think in the championship he's ahead than Hamilton is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's really performing like, or if he's driving faster than Hamilton. Does that make sense? I think Hamilton drove a better race in Spain, although George Russell drove a really good race as well.
Mhm.
Um, I felt like before also Hamilton has been better, but then like safety cars have been compromising his race.
Mhm.
I think in Saudi Arabia that happened. Then also in Miami, they kept him out for whatever reason. Um, and like George Russell has just been there to take advantage of like that.
Yeah, I think at the moment the Mercs have like two elite drivers. Like it really does what it is. They don't have the faster car, but I think you can really see that George at the moment, like he's really like he's really good. And like if the car was better, he would be competing for a world championship at the moment. Like I mean, he was defending like crazy against Verstappen. I mean, I understand that Verstappen didn't have the DRS, but even then, and there were a few laps in which Verstappen did have DRS, and even in those, like he wasn't having like a good time trying to pass Russell.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, he just defended really well. So I feel like under a faster car, I think Russell is a real future contender of the championship. Maybe not this
Yeah.
year, or maybe even
He
this year.
he's been really consistent. Every single race of the year, he's finished in the top five,
Top five, yeah.
and he already has two podiums.
Mhm.
And like
Mhm.
he's really consistent. Also, like it's kind of funny because like his nickname is Mr. Consistency or something like that,
Mhm.
or also Mr. Saturday, whatever.
Yeah, some people call him that, yeah.
But I think Mr. Consistency or whatever, he was something like that. He has a couple of nicknames.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes. But it goes, I don't know, it goes back. I feel like Hamilton, and I hate to say luck, but like he's been kind of unlucky. I mean, there's been a couple of events in which Hamilton had just been like outright like more unlucky than Russell. Russell hasn't had any issues. He's been on the good side of every safety car that like
Yeah.
happens. On his strategies as well, he just happened to be in the right strategy a lot of times. So yeah, I don't know. I
We've
mean,
had go ahead.
no, sorry, it is what it is. But I mean, like Hamilton is also like, I feel like, on top shape. It just
Yeah, we've
hold it
had
back a little maybe.
comments. We've had comments on previous videos where they say that like Hamilton was never good, that
Uh,
Hamilton just won because he was in the best car, that the fact that he was stuck behind Pierre Gasly on Imola like the whole race and he couldn't end the points, that's just where Hamilton belongs, that he's not a driver that deserves to be in the points, like, and you can see it because he can't get there on merit. And I'm like, I don't know, what do you think of like the
well, I mean, no, I mean that's just ridiculous. I mean, and it's not to say that that's just ridiculous, because I mean, you could think that and be like, whatever, like, sure, you think that, but like, that's not the truth. Like, the truth is that like Hamilton is just like a very good driver. like he, like,
But
yes,
before you
sure.
continue, whoever watches this video, are you a Lewis Hamilton fan?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, I like him, but I'm not like a huge. I'm more of a Charles Leclerc fan. I mean, that's been my guy for the past couple. of years. But I respect Hamilton. As a matter of fact, like on the last maybe like 2 or 3 years, I was like I wasn't sure if I liked it before, but then I was just like, okay, let me see. I mean, let's give him a chance. Like race by race, yes, there are some races where he just wins the race, and like there was no competition. He just pressed the throttle and he like he finished the race, and that's what happened. But there were races many times in which like he had to fucking fight for it, like he had to go for it. Like something happened and he had to drive from the back to the front. Incidents where like he was supposed to finish and like he finished. And that I think is a dividing factor. The fact that we can compare him to Bottas we have in the past, but even to other drivers, that like when the moment comes, you need to deliver on some things. You need to be there at the right time to take advantage of things. And Hamilton's always been that guy. When he needs to make a pass, he makes the pass. When he needs to climb through a field quickly, he comes through a field quickly, and then back again, putting pressure. Always putting pressure. Always reliably fast. And you can't argue that the guy like doesn't manage tires as good as anybody else. Like the guy is a master at like managing tires, managing strategies. It's unbelievable, really, how good he is. But a lot of people don't want to see that. A lot of people don't like to think that like, oh, there's a guy that's unbeatable, or they're like, oh, you're just overappreciating it. It's like, no, if you look objectively at the achievements of Hamilton and of like individual races like that he's done, like I think like he's done some incredible races, even in the fastest car. Like
he
that you
he
show what
has
the car
some
can
of
do.
the most iconic races.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that he won his first championship is very iconic.
Mhm.
Just
Oh
in the
yeah.
past couple of years, he won a race on only 3 tires.
He
Uh,
did that. Yeah, that was insane. He finished
like
that race.
he fucking ended the whole race and he didn't have one tire. Like, how do you win a race and on only 3 tires? Like that is no other driver can say that. He has broken all the records in Formula One.
Yeah.
Like you have the same thing in Spain here, and like I think the only downfall of Hamilton, and which has nothing to do with his driving, is just his personality.
Yeah. A lot of people don't
If
like his personality.
if he like, and I was like, he made that like that incident. It wasn't a mistake. It was just a race incident on lap one, and then like a couple of laps later, he's like, let's just retire the car.
Yeah. He was
Like
being like, why are we doing this?
he has this attitude issue in his personality that is just annoying at times, and people don't like that, because then when he wins, it's like that never happened. Like when he wins, he's like all gracious and very victorious and very nice.
Yeah.
But then when he's not winning, he just shows this whiny side or frustrating side.
Yeah.
But just because that it's an aspect of his personality, that has nothing to do with how good the guy drives.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
sure, you can complain and hate him because of his personality and all of that, but that has the guy still like won. I think he's the greatest driver of Formula One, like of all time.
Yeah. Me too.
Up until now. Maybe in the future that will change. Maybe Verstappen could be the greatest driver of all time. But the thing is that he hasn't done it for as long as Hamilton has. Hamilton, since the very first year up until this year, he's been just as good. Like there hasn't been a decline in performance from Lewis Hamilton in all of these years. And he's been there since 2007. From 2007 to 2022. The guy's just been constantly winning races. Maybe Verstappen will also do the same for that period of time, but until he does it, he can't be considered like the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think also there is something said like you were saying about the personality. It's like, I dislike Verstappen because of his personality.
Oh yeah,
like I'm not a big fan of the guy, the way that he the way that he talks to the media, or the way that he talks to his to his team. I'm also not a big fan of like all the political speak that he does in incidents and stuff. I don't like that, and I also don't like how aggressive he can be racing. That being said, even though I don't like him, I will never be like he was never a good driver. He's just in the best team, right? I will say like no, actually I think he's the best driver. I think he's the best driver right now. I said that
Yeah, I
last week.
think the best driver in Formula One right now is Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
evidently every weekend he's just a contender, somebody that like needs to be addressed and like correctly like trying to like fight for every single race. Leclerc isn't the fastest car, but he's also a pretty good driver. But I mean, I like maybe even just as good. But I think Verstappen has the edge at the moment.
Verstappen is more consistent. He just is. And like, I mean, there
Correct.
stats, and then we just like we mentioned stats about Lewis Hamilton, we can have the stats about Verstappen. I think I don't know if it's the past 40 at least. I know that at least 35 or 37 races in the past 37 races that Verstappen has finished a race, he's been in the top two. Like he's either first or second in
Yeah.
37 races that he's finished a race.
Mhm.
So it's not like the guy is not consistent.
Oh,
Also,
yeah.
all of the races that he's finished this year, he's won them. Although I don't think that in Spain he would have won, but
Yeah.
again, the stat is there. So like the guy is incredibly consistent, and the guy is really good, and probably the best, if not the best, Formula One driver right now. That just because I don't like him, I'm not gonna say like
He
you said,
wasn't
I'm not gonna say like, oh, he's only good because he's in the fastest car. It's like,
right.
no, dude, like I can understand that the guy is really good.
Right. You can be
Even if I don't
objective
like,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah. No. Okay. So I think that's everything that I had for the Mercedes conversation.
yeah.
Oh,
I
actually,
think
there's one more thing. There's one more thing. That incident between Hamilton and Magnussen. Who do you put the blame on? Play the
uh
blame game.
if I have to, like, right, I think it was a racing incident. It's like lap one and all of that. But if you're telling me, let's say it's not a racing incident and I have to blame it on somebody, I think it was more Magnussen's fault. I feel like he was trying to overtake on the outside, and he turned in really sharp as opposed to kind of wider when you're on the outside. And so you have a car like on the inside,
Yeah.
and you're not leaving them any space. And I don't know, like there's a lot of things for a racing driver, and like I know that I know the track because I played the game, you know. So
Yeah.
like I know that turn four, it's a turn that eventually the cars want to open up as much as possible so they can get the best exit out of there. So if I know that the car that is on the inside is gonna try to open up, I'm not gonna not
Close
leave
up
them any
further.
space. Yeah, not gonna close up my car so close to them that if they open up, we both take each other out. Like I'm gonna be mindful that I have to be farther like ahead, or I have to open up way more than them so we don't crash.
Mhm.
And I don't think that Magnussen did that. I think he was very aggressive there, didn't leave Lewis any space, and then they ended up crashing. So if I have to blame it on somebody, I think it was Magnussen's fault.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I agree with everything. I mean, from the replays, it's actually it
It does
actually
seem like
looks.
there's a point where Lewis kind of like opens up and then they crash, and you feel like, oh, Lewis like turned
I
into him.
I don't think so. I think he turned in because like they touched and like he like did that, but like
Okay.
um, but no, yeah, I think it's 100% right. Like it was a racing incident, I would say. I would say it was like a very minor touch. Actually, it just had some like bigger consequences than usual. Because for example, Perez and Russell, I think touched like that pretty similarly to in like turn one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, that was
uh,
exciting.
and but like they both made it out. It's just this time like there was an actual puncture and like that wasn't good. Um, so it was unfortunate
For Lewis.
for both Lewis and Magnussen because I feel like Magnussen actually probably would have had a pretty good race had it not been for that. Like
Yeah.
he was on his way to racking up another like top five, top six maybe, or maybe top seven if nothing worked out in the front. But yeah, no, unfortunate for both of them, especially because I like both. But yeah, yeah, I think it was a racing incident in which Magnussen was probably more at fault.
Okay. So with that in mind, I don't have any other topics of conversation specifically for the weekend. I can happily move into my complaints. Obviously, you don't move happily into complaining, but
There's something
unless you
nice about
enjoy
complaining.
complaining.
Complaining can feel good. I like complaining, but
Okay,
yeah,
one second, hold on.
happy. Okay. Yeah, no, good.
Complaining feels good sometimes.
yeah. I like me some good complaints. So I want to
Now,
hear it.
yeah, we have usually two types of complaints. One of them is when it has to do with the FIA and the rules of Formula One. And the other ones is when it doesn't have to do with like the rules, but it's mostly about the casters or the broadcast, like the TV direction, which I think the TV direction was better this race than what it was in Miami. But I still think they mess up quite a lot. For example, something that I will be a very big critic of, at least for this weekend, that I feel like it's not perfected at all, is the drone camera.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that thing. It's just like you like flying all over the place doing this shit.
I've
You're just
used
like,
it.
ah.
I feel like there's that meme with Mr. Krabs that he's like, you know which one I'm talking about?
Oh yeah,
The Mr. Krabs like,
yeah. I think so, yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, what's up with the drone camera? So I looked it up to try to understand like what happened here. Why is it so bad? And I'm like, first of all, it's a drone. It has to be like control remote,
Mhm.
and they can't drive it on top of the track.
Mhm.
So they have to find a place in the track where they're not on top of fans, they're not on top of the cars, and that they can follow the cars for like as part of the circuit, like a section of the track. And so like the only part that they found was the one that we saw, that they're trying to follow them, and it's like, what is going on? And like they look so small. Like I'm like, what is happening? And the car, like the camera is turning like this way. You
Yeah.
don't understand what's going on either. So I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
Well, we're just not there yet.
Right, yeah. It's well, I mean, I don't know. It could be that it was just a little too fast. I feel like it did look kind of cool, and like I actually thought it was a little cool, but at the same time, I was like, whoa. You're like, okay, what's going on? Like it was entertaining to watch, but it like, yeah, you can't follow a race like that. So I'm glad that they didn't do it too much, because they kept it at a low.
Yeah. Oh man, I could do without the drone camera up until it's refined. Don't put it in Monaco. I don't know. You can,
No,
if
I
you can
think
do that.
that might be
They
too filled with people.
yeah, like put it on top of the on the water or something. But don't. I also like there's a million of buildings all over the place. I don't know
Mhm.
if you can even do that in Monaco, but
Yeah.
just it's a little crazy. Because like yeah, it's a good idea like in concept. Like you have
Mhm.
a drone, and if you follow the Formula One car, that'd be cool. Also, it makes sense that a drone cannot fucking fly as fast as a Formula One car. So it's not like you can just be like, ah, you know.
Yeah. But you
And
can
then
follow around like in like certain turns and stuff.
yeah, but it makes sense that like that will never happen because the drone cannot go on top of the track where the cars are driving. It's just dangerous if the drone just malfunctions, crashes, or anything happens, and then it falls on top of a Formula One driver. So it's a nice idea, like as a concept, but then you realize like I understand why this is not allowed.
I feel like yeah. I also was worried that like yes, that the drone was gonna fall on top of somebody. I was like, holy shit, what if that happened? Like, wouldn't that be like a deadly object to
Like
like
we have
like a driver?
helicopters. We have a helicopter driving on top of the track. Let's just skip that. That's perfect. I
Yeah.
think like that's like one of those shots that is so like it goes by and it's like a thankless job. Like the person driving that helicopter goes around the track and then they follow the cars for such a long period of time. Like that's a camera angle. Imagine like I don't know how much they pay that guy, but like we're renting a helicopter every
Every
weekend
race.
with a
Yeah.
camera to follow Formula One drivers for 2 hours. Like that's just something that the sport does.
Yeah.
Like that, and then we take that for granted. It's no, we need better camera now. Like the
I
like
think that was pretty good.
yeah.
Actually, yes. Yeah, in every race there's a helicopter, but it is good. It's a great camera. You're totally right. I think yeah, it is totally the unsung heroes of the cameras because it is really cool. It follows the action really well. You can see it from like a really different angles that like you couldn't do if you're just static, if you have a static camera. So I think yeah. But yeah, the drone is a little too much and it's not doing, I think it's not doing what I think they thought it was going to be doing, which is like follow the cars. It's just too disorienting. It's just moving too randomly, too shakily too. So it's like a little difficult to follow at the moment. I think maybe there are some chances to refining it, but doesn't have to be yet, I think.
Yeah. So it's around like just it has nothing to do with the sport. The sport is still fine, whatever. And I have my complaints. It's just like one of those things that do we need this? Do we need to watch Formula One like this? I don't know, man. The other thing and my complaints is like some of the TV direction, right? So I thought that it was really good when Verstappen says, "Hey, my DRS is not opening," or Red Bull tell him, and then the very next lap, we have a camera facing the back of the Red Bull
Yes.
to see if it opens, and then it doesn't, and you're like, "Ooh, it's not opening," and you're like, "Oh yeah, I can
Yeah.
see it,"
Uh-huh.
and it makes sense because that's what we're being. That's the story of the race. That's what's happening, and you're being told. And then the next lap, you want to see if it freaking opens, and now they show the front. And I'm like, show me the back again. I don't know. Is it open? Is it not open? The only way I can tell is like if by the end of the straight, Verstappen caught up to Russell. Now, like, okay, and then the next lap it goes around, and now you show me the back, and it doesn't open. So I'm like, okay, so it's not opening. So that means that he's not catching up to Russell. And then the next lap is the same thing, and now you show me the front, and now I don't know if the back is open or not. And I'm like, I need to know. Like, couldn't like you don't have to for the entire straight show me the back of the car. Like, you have multiple camera angles, so show me, switch in the middle. So if the straight begins, show me the back of Verstappen to see if the wing lifts up, and if it doesn't, then switch to the front camera so I can see if he's gonna overtake Russell. Like, I don't know if that's really that hard to do. But it seems simple enough. Just have the camera pointed to the DRS. It's the story we're following. I know that you can do it. You literally are doing it every other lap. And then just switch it back to the front when we see that it's open. And if it's not open, you can still switch to the front or keep it on the back, whatever.
No, I think so too. I mean, you have to, if you're like the camera director on these things, I think you see all the angles, so you can make the calls like that. It probably is not conventional because they're not used to making the cuts that quickly in Formula One. Like usually in the past, I think they hold the camera angles for like an entire like straight or something like that. So I don't think they're used to doing it. But in reality, it would be better to if they had the flexibility to be able to do that in the middle of a straight. So yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I don't think that's gonna change. I feel like probably it's an old guy or girl being like, okay, now we're gonna show this one. Now we're gonna show that one. But they're never gonna be like, okay, put that one, and now that one, and now, because they're old. So I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know if it's necessarily gonna happen, but it'd be cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it did get better from Miami, but it's not good. Like there are some things that I feel like are so intuitive, like what I'm saying, and that I feel like it's possible because I'm seeing the possibilities. But I'm asking, is it really that hard? And then for the people like, oh, but it's gonna get better for Monaco. It's not gonna get better for Monaco.
They fucked up Monaco in the past.
And the reason is because Monaco has a special like contract with Formula One that they have to have their own TV direction of the Grand Prix. Formula One has their
Oh.
own team that travels with Formula One,
Yeah.
and they are the ones that do the TV direction. And there are certain tracks where the country tells them like, no, we have to have the direction of the broadcast, and Monaco is one of them. So that's why Monaco gets fucked up constantly over the years, because it's like a single time in a year that they do a Formula One event, and they don't know, like they try all these new things and we're like, what are you doing? This is Monaco, just keep it consistent. So if Monaco goes bad this year, don't blame it on the
On normal
Formula
people.
One team. Yeah, on the team that we're blaming in our right now. Don't blame it on those guys. It's not their fault. It's not their fault that it's gonna be even shit.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. No, I.
so yeah.
I
The
agree.
the other thing is that I feel like, although the Spanish Grand Prix was better than the Miami Grand Prix when it comes to the TV direction, like I think we saw most of the overtakes. There was the one that I texted you about, like that we are watching Carlos Sainz for an entire lap, and then in the meantime, I think Russell is overtaking Bottas for the podium, and I'm like, why am I watching Carlos Sainz? What is going on? And then and then they show the replay of Russell overtaking Bottas, and I'm like, don't show me the replay because I already know the outcome. Show me what's happening live.
Like
So,
currently, yeah.
but aside from that incident, I think that the TV direction is actually really good compared to the Miami Grand Prix. But I'm also not sure, there weren't many things happening on the track at once, right? So sometimes the TV direction goes really bad when there's a battle for the lead.
Yeah.
So if there's a battle for the lead and then other things are also happening,
Yeah.
they don't know what to do.
They
They
go
don't
crazy,
know. Yeah, they don't know if to focus on the battle for the lead. And then if there's an overtake for the lead, the instant replay. And then I'm like, but they're still racing. So I don't know, man. In this race, there was no battle for the lead. So I think it was a little bit more cohesive. But I'm now just worried, like, bro, if there's more than one thing happening, like, is the team gonna be able to keep up? Now, like, and yes, I may be a little harsh here because I don't know how hard that job is, but this is what we're asking for.
No, yeah, it just feels like the camera, like I feel like it's like if they think that like just by making the camera more frantic and like all over the place, like we're gonna be like in a Michael Bay movie and be like oh, like the action is happening, right? Like this is the moment, like, and like look at all these things that we're throwing at you. But like that's not right. That's not the case. We want to see what's happening on the circuit, like live. That's why we're watching this sport live, because we want to see like they're going head to head. Stay with them, like look at how like at that point any little mistake could cost a position. So you want to like really like follow through the laps, and then if like there's some distance again, maybe like they go out of DRS and then show the replay. But like on the Miami Grand Prix, it was like every time that something happened, like immediately replay, and like but like there's other places in which action's still going. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I agree with that as well.
Yeah. So that's my rant specifically about things that have nothing to do with the FIA or the rules of Formula One. It's just like the broadcast. It's not intuitive. I'm watching and I'm getting frustrated trying to watch the race because I know what I want to see, and then I'm like, why can I see it? Like all I want to know is if Verstappen DRS opened or not, and I have a camera facing the front car. And I'm like, and then it's like, oh, but calm down because it's hard to put a camera facing the back of the car. And I'm like, you literally had a camera facing the back of the car the previous lap. So I know it's possible. So I just want to know, like, why can't you just show me the back and then if it opens, switch it to the front? Why is that not possible? Why can't you do that? Like, that's just intuitive for a human being to like, did it open? Yes. Now show me if he's going to overtake the car in front.
Yep.
So I don't know. I just get hyped. Like, when like things are not intuitive. On the other hand, you have the things that bothers me. about the rules of Formula One. And this one wasn't something that happened in the race, but it happened during the weekend. And it's the drivers that all broke, like 18 drivers broke a rule during qualifying, and none of them were penalized. And the rule is that at the beginning, when like you come out of the pits and you're gonna do your warm-up lap before you start qualifying, did you see that the drivers come out really slow out of the pit lane?
Yeah, I did kind of notice that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason, obviously, that they're doing that is so they can create a gap between their car and the car in front of them, so they can warm up their tires and go around the circuit at a certain speed, etc. But Formula One obviously has a rule against drivers going too slow on their out laps, which I think is like whatever the average lap of the track is, or I don't know if it's the fastest lap or the average track lap. You cannot go like 150% slower than that.
Okay.
So like, let's say if the track, if it's 1 minute to go around the lap, you cannot take your out lap and take 1 minute and over 1 minute and 30 seconds, which is 150%. You have to be starting your lap within like that time frame. Otherwise, you get like a penalty or whatever. And drivers are not allowed to be so slow out of the pit lane. But like, that's what they were doing. What they were trying to do was to create a gap, because I think that timing, it's at the end of the pit lane. So they come out of the pit lane, and then if they are on that line all the way on the main straight, after that white line is over, that's when I think it starts counting. So what drivers were doing is that they were doing like a loophole, whatever, is that they come out of the pits, but they have this giant straight, and they were going so slow there, to create that gap before that time starts ticking. And it's like, they told the drivers, you're no longer allowed to do this, even during qualifying. And we saw it by the radio, Pierre Gasly. It's like, hey, Pierre, and this is a warning for all the drivers. You're no longer allowed to do that. To do that during the qualifying. And 18 drivers did it. I think the only 2 drivers that didn't do it were the Hasses. But the reason they don't do it is because they're the first ones out of the pit lane, So, so their tires are fresher out of the blankets. But every other driver did it multiple times, and they're not penalized.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the penalty is for that. But then is the same thing again, that Formula One, for whatever reason, when they have to penalize multiple drivers for an infraction, they don't penalize them.
They don't do it.
If multiple drivers don't slow down under a yellow flag, they don't penalize them. If multiple drivers weave in this, they don't penalize them. It's like if it's a once in like, out of 20 drivers, 1 did it, we penalize the driver. But if it's multiple, they don't do it.
They will never do it, yeah.
And I'm like, just penalize them all. They all gotta get penalized for that.
I mean, I think I kind of agree. I mean, well, I don't know. I feel like there's some level of leniency at a point where maybe like, even though the rule is in place, I think like, well, I mean, like the drivers will always try to do what the drivers want to do in order to take advantage of it. So if it's not clearly stated, or if there's like a loophole or something, like you can be sure that the drivers will try to take advantage of it. I guess what I would say is that like, I didn't notice, and it really didn't bug me. But if it's in the rules, in the rules. And even if it's not for this race, then at the end of this race, you should tell all the drivers like, listen, this cannot happen, and if it does happen again, then there will be penalties. And then just make sure you impose those penalties, and like you actually do them.
For me, this specific like rule or infringement of the rules doesn't bother me. Like, I don't think it's something that bothers me to what happens like in qualifying or not. What bothers me is that like they don't get penalized after breaking a rule. and it doesn't have to be this rule. And we'll talk about this one in several times before. For example, in Saudi Arabia, there was a yellow flag, I think on qualifying, and like 4 drivers got like their fastest lap under yellow flag conditions. None of them slowed down. They get their fastest lap of the race. They end the race or the qualifying, whatever, and none of them, and they all get to keep their times. And I'm like, penalize them all. Yeah. None of those laps should have counted. But because it's more than one driver, then Formula One feels like, oh, if we penalize them all, it's going to look like our sport is a shit show and that drivers are always doing penalties and they never follow the rules. And I don't know why they have that mentality. It's kind of like when I'm watching a soccer match, the referee has to have a grasp of the game, because if the players start like tackling each other and taking each other out, you have that yellow card and that red card to get them out of the game. Just get them out of here. Just like they shouldn't be in the game. You need to get a hold of the game, and the way that you get like grip and control of the players is by penalizing them. You have to get those cards and like, hey, you can't do that. That's a warning. I'm telling you. And Formula One doesn't do that with their drivers. If everybody does like infringes in a penalty, they like, oh, we'll let it slide because so many of you did it. And I'm like, what the fuck is that all about? I think that also happened in Baku last year when Max Verstappen was winning the race, and then his tire exploded, and all the drivers went fucking fast with Max Verstappen's car, like in the middle of the track. Yeah. And like all of the drivers, like 12 drivers, went fucking fast and didn't turn down the pedal or the throttle. 12 cars on their yellow flag conditions with a car stuck in the middle of the road, and none of them got penalties. Yeah. And I'm like, they should have all gotten a penalty, because if you don't, then it's going to keep happening. You have to penalize them all. And that's what bothers me with Formula One. This what happened in Spain is like such a stupid thing. Like, it's a little rule that doesn't change anything much. But the other ones are like the yellow flag ones are like things that are dangerous. Like, the reason it's a yellow flag is because an accident could happen that could be even worse. There could be people on track. There's a car that you can crash into. There's I don't know. You have to be careful, and that's why the yellow flag is there. And just Formula One just lets it slide every single time, and I don't know. It just pisses me off.
No, yeah, I think I agree. I feel like I feel like it depends on the type of incidents, and I do think there's a level of like, well, if it's not that dangerous and like, every driver broke it, then they're like, we can look into it and see what happened and like maybe revise the rule and see if it's that bad. Maybe we need to penalize everybody. But yeah, in incidents where like it's a clear infringement of like a yellow flag, or like where like drivers are completing laps with like yellow flags on and stuff, it's like now you're like, that shouldn't happen. Like, now you get into territory where like the worst can happen.
You're gonna kill somebody.
Like, somebody dies in the middle of the road because somebody didn't slow down, and because you haven't been enforced those rules. So yeah, no, I think I totally agree. For us, the people that are watching, the people that like care about these type of things, I feel like we're like rule lawyers in this house. Yes. We're like all about the rules. I kind of agree. I think it'd be good if there was like consistency and like there was actual penalties for when bad things happen, so that well, for one, everybody's playing on the same field, but like for two, so like it's safe, so like there's not that we can prevent all these like weird incidents or deadly incidents and things like that. So yeah, no, totally agree.
Yeah, I know that this one is like a very minor, but this is what we do every race. We document all the times the FIA just messes up and they just sweep it under the rug like nothing ever happened. And I'm gonna point it out every fucking time. So there's a track record. I know it's only for like 18 subscribers at the moment. But this 18 people, you guys, 18 people of you will know that the FIA is just sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. So
Yeah. Okay, so with that in mind, we're gonna do now the Formula One World Drivers Championship. Um, you haven't seen it, right? You don't know the
no, not really. I'm not keeping up.
yeah. So what I wanted to do is like after we finish the scoring, to see for you to see it and tell me what you think. Because like the idea for a Formula One championship is to determine like who deserves to win the drivers' championship,
According to us.
whether they were in the fastest car or not. You know, like if just like the best driver does actually get to win the championship. Um, so we just rank them over here. So we can start with Verstappen. What do you rank Verstappen?
See, I don't know. Because I don't think he had the best weekend, but like a bad Verstappen weekend is also not like the worst weekend ever. I think I mean he had qualified check, but then he made a mistake in the middle of the race. But then his ERS wasn't working, but he still managed to get past and he still managed to win the race with all that. I mean, between mistakes and between, always being behind Leclerc, and he was always going to finish behind Leclerc until Leclerc didn't finish. I'm going to give him a 4.5. I'm going to try to be fair. I'm not going to give him a 5, not even close. But I was actually considering giving him a 4, but I think a 4.5 is about fair.
Okay. What about Perez?
Perez, I don't know. I mean, he struggled just as much behind Russell, but he had his DRS working. And like he wasn't able to make the move until way later. And I think he eventually just got him on strategy, really. I'm gonna give Perez, but he still got second place. He also did probably 3.5.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Okay, let's go with Leclerc.
Well, this is weird because I feel like it should have been a 5 out of 5 for Leclerc. Like, and technically speaking, it is. He was the fastest on like all of the practices. I think I don't know what was in the third one. But he also was the fastest on qualifying. Qualifying the guy in his home race or out qualifying him. And then he was winning that race convincingly, no problem. Putting fastest lap after fastest lap too. So
yeah, he didn't even have to pit. Like he was out there on like the oldest tires.
Yeah,
and just still being faster than everybody.
Yeah, just still carrying the pace.
Yeah, I think it's a 5 for him, even if he didn't finish the race.
Okay,
but I don't know what you think.
No, I was gonna give him a 5, but what else do you give him?
All right, what about Carlos Sainz?
Well, we had a whole rant about him. He did finish in fourth, not impressive, for a Ferrari at least. And then did not qualify Leclerc. He gets stuck behind. He gets stuck behind for quite a while. He didn't pass Russell, and then he made that horrible mistake. Well, I don't know. I guess maybe it wasn't his fault, full of mistake, but I'm gonna give him. I'm thinking somewhere between a 3 and a 2.5. Probably a 2.5.
I'm thinking somewhere around there too.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carlos.
Yeah.
My name is Carlos, but that's other Carlos. What about George Russell?
George Russell, pretty good, really good. Actually, really good performance by him. Probably as good as he could have done. I mean, like just staying behind the Red Bulls who eventually passed him, but he still maintained pace. Hard to say because it's interesting because Hamilton also had an incredible race. I'm gonna give him a 4.5.
Yeah, I actually think that George Russell could be on a 5, but the thing is that I feel like Hamilton had a better race than Russell.
Yeah, which leads me to Hamilton, which I think it wasn't his mistake, but he was, he was still in recovery mode. And he didn't qualify Russell, did he?
I don't think he did.
No.
Or did he? I don't know.
uh,
I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I don't think he did. Let me see. No, I gotta find that. I'm gonna go crazy.
He didn't. He started 6th.
Right. Okay. That's what I thought. George Russell started 4th. Yeah, it was a good qualifying for Russell. Yeah, no, that's so. I'm gonna give Hamilton a 4.5 as well. You know,
Really? He was driver of the day. You're thinking that
he was
Leclerc drove better than Hamilton?
Yeah. I mean,
I think
it's
Hamilton
it's hard
deserves
to
a
say.
5, but
You,
if you
you
want to
think
put him there,
you think he deserves a 5?
there's no way that Hamilton could have drove any better.
He didn't make all the passes that he needed to do, and it wasn't really his fault at the end.
And it's also like, and I can't have the same argument for Russell. I'm like, there's no way that Russell could have drove any better. But then again, like, it's like, okay, Russell deserves a 5, but I'm like, Hamilton, I feel like had a better race than Russell. So I'm like, that's why it's okay if Russell is 4.5. But then by that same logic, I'm like, then I think Hamilton is a 5.
All right, let's give him the 5. You're making arguments here, so I'll.
What about Bottas?
Let me see. Bottas. He was doing okay. I mean, he was getting passed by the Mercs and by the Ferraris and stuff at the end there. But it's like it was to be expected. Is like the guy was never gonna win the race. He was still the best of the rest. So I'll put him at a 4.5.
4.5. A lot of 4.5s today.
Yeah. I mean, did great. No complaints.
What about Guanyu?
He
Guanyu.
He didn't finish. Did he finish? No, he didn't finish.
No, he's been quite unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he was out qualifying anybody, anyways. Like I think Bottas was always ahead. I don't think. Yeah, okay, so he made it to Q2, but he didn't go that much farther from there. So I don't know, 2.5. A little disappointed, really, because well, I mean, he's still a rookie, but I mean, he was.
I think he's had a lot of issues in his car. I think he also had to retire in Miami.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a couple of races now.
Yeah, I think he's trying, but it's okay. He gets a pass. He's a really nice guy. So
he's a rookie, but he has a very nice attitude. Yeah.
All right, let's switch it to the back of the grid now. Sure. Alex Albon.
Well, from what I was seeing, and from what I heard in radios and in interviews after, is that like it was like a miserable race for them.
So there's a ballard on turn 14 at the end, like what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And he took it out. Yeah, the stick. He took it out and broke his floor.
Oh.
And he was racing with a damaged floor the entire race.
That's not good. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of his fault. But also,
yeah, I'm not sure how it happened. I don't know if he was racing somebody, and then I don't know if that's a term where you're racing other people, but
yeah.
But yeah,
may have been chasing somebody. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna give him a 2.5. Maybe.
Yeah, I think this is his worst performance, uncharacteristic of Alex, because he's been actually driving quite consistently. Yeah. And this one is the one that like Latifi outperformed him. And I'm like, what is going on with Alex Albon? Did he just give up on life? Is this not his strike? Does he just hate Spain? I don't know.
Is he sick or something? Yeah, because it's so rare for Latifi to be ahead of anybody. At least this year. So no, yeah, I think I'll give him like a 2. He's not gonna make it top 10. So
okay, and then we go to Latifi.
Latifi again, solid 2.5. He ended up faster than Magnussen and Albon, so congrats to him.
All right, let's go to Kevin Magnussen.
unfortunate, but he was having a great weekend until that incident, and I think it was a racing incident, even though you could probably put a little bit more of the blame on him. I think it still was a racing incident that like it ruined his entire weekend. So I don't know. I was thinking of giving him a 3.
3.
3
Yeah.
for the good qualifying, but maybe 2.5 because of the incident, but really a 3. I mean, he couldn't come back, but he was in a Haas, so what's there to be said?
Yeah. What about Mick?
Mick did okay, didn't he? Oh no, he ended up in 14th place. Yeah, no, nothing much. 2.5. He did not qualify anybody, and he ended up behind. So
Lando.
and had a good race, especially compared to Ricciardo. And he was also sick. So for that,
Yeah,
I mean,
like Lando had tonsillitis.
yeah, which I don't really know what it is, but it sounds
like your tonsils here.
Yeah,
like the little 2 balls you have here in
they're like
the
inflamed
throat.
or
Yeah,
something.
they're like fucking huge. Like like it hurts to swallow anything, even your own saliva.
Mhm.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
That's why people like sometimes take the tonsils out and shit.
Yeah. No. So I don't know how much better he could have done, but he might have done. He could have done better.
I think he did really well being sick. I mean,
Right.
Ricciardo wasn't sick. And then, like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's true too. I'm gonna give him a 4. I think a 4 is solid.
A 4 for Lando.
Yeah, there's another 3.5, but because it's hard to say if the car is missing a little bit or if it was just like they couldn't. But
I mean, so just to give you some reference, you're saying that Lando drove better than Sergio Perez.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Daniel Ricciardo.
I'm gonna give him a 2.5, similar to Mick. Yeah. I mean, we've had our talks about Ricciardo in the past, so we don't need to rehash a lot of that.
Yeah, just summary. We love Daniel Ricciardo, but he's sucking really bad, and maybe needs to retire soon. That's the summary of our thoughts on Daniel Ricciardo.
It's unfortunate.
Okay, now let's go with Esteban Ocon.
Ocon, I thought Ocon did well. Yeah, okay, yeah, he did. He finished 7th behind Bottas, probably as good as you can ask for the Alpines. He also did better than Alonso,
Alonso started last.
Why did he start last?
I think he had to switch his engine.
Yeah, I missed that part. But he had qualified Ocon.
Ocon qualified 12th. Alonso qualified 17th.
Well, maybe he was in a worse engine. I don't know. Ocon, I could probably give a 4 or a 3.5, probably a 4. For out qualifying his teammate and finishing in a really good position. Yeah, I don't think he had a lot of fights or anything. So
you're saying that Ocon drove better than Perez?
Yeah, I'm fine with that statement as well.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Just so I can give you a reference point.
That's fine.
Based on what about Alonso?
Alonso, he ended up with points. He ended up fine. The qualifying was nothing great. I'm gonna give him a 3. I think there was more on that car.
Really? I think he did really well. He started last. That's what I'm saying. And then he came back all the way to the point. I think he drove better than Ocon.
Interesting.
So, like, for me, Ocon maybe gets a 3.5 and Alonso a 4. But
oh wow, really? I guess I'll give Alonso 3.5 because I don't know. I guess I wasn't keeping up with him too much, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay. It's the Formula Juan championship, not the Formula Carlos championship.
All right.
Gasly.
Didn't he have an incident with Stroll? That incident with Stroll was very bizarre.
I think that was Gasly's fault.
It was totally Gasly's fault.
Although I think like it's a Stroll characteristical,
Stroll classic.
yeah, Stroll classic that he turns into other drivers. If you
Yeah,
haven't seen it, we have a playlist
we have a
of every
playlist of the
with,
Stroll
with
incidents.
like with like 11 videos, I think, or 12 videos of Lance Stroll just turning into drivers and crashing onto them.
Yes.
So this was a Stroll classic, but I don't think it was a Stroll's fault in this case.
Just like a Stroll classic should be.
Yeah,
And actually this time he actually gave a lot of space.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He left. I mean, like in other times it's been questionable, but in this one it was just pretty obvious that like he left him plenty of space. There shouldn't have been any reason for an incident, and then like Gasly went on to him anyways. Like so yeah, no. I don't know how much was there in the alpha cars nowadays. You know, it seems like they've
Yeah,
only kind of slowed that since the
yep.
beginning of the year.
Yeah, now I don't know if Gasly is he a good driver or is their car just
Yeah,
sucking and is making him look bad? I don't know. Or is he just not motivated anymore? I thought Gasly was pretty decent. Now he's just like, eh.
yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna give him a three for that. Like I think because I think he did what he can with the car, but he also crashed into somebody and ruined somebody's race, which wasn't much of a race. I don't think Stroll was fighting for points at the point.
Yeah. What about Yuki?
Yuki he ended up behind. Wasn't didn't? No. He ended up ahead. He actually got a point. If that's the case, I can give him a 3, and I probably should give Gasly a 2.5 then.
Damn, Yuki got a point. I didn't notice that. What
Probably
about
good.
Sebastian Vettel?
Vettel. Just outside the points. For an Aston Martin, which we thought they were gonna perform better because they're copying the Red Bull formula, the Red Bull car.
Oh yes, we didn't talk about that, but there's not much to talk about.
No, they just took the chassis suspiciously similar, but they're not going as fast. So
Yeah.
and they have a history of doing this, that team. So yeah, just funny, but no, I mean Vettel probably performed as good as he could have. I'm just gonna give him a 3. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Okay. And last but not least, Lance Stroll.
Stroll crashed at the end there, and I think before that, I think he was ahead of Vettel. I could be wrong about that. In any case, I'm just gonna give him a 3 as well. I don't know if he necessarily was competing for points.
Okay. So for the win of this race,
I'm gonna make one quick upgrade. I'm gonna upgrade Yuki to 3.5. I thought about it, and I think he deserves a 3.5. He did get a point.
3.5. Okay. So for the victory of this race, as to who should have won this race, whether they were in the fastest car or not, is between Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton.
Let's give it to Lewis. I think it's the right thing to do. He was the driver of the day, and even though Leclerc deserved it, he didn't finish. Very unfortunate. So we'll give him second.
Yeah, second place for Charles. And now for the last place in the Formula One podium, you have a 3-way tie between Max Verstappen, George Russell, and Valtteri Bottas.
I'm gonna give it to Russell, then Verstappen, then Bottas. Actually, I don't know. Even that is kind of close. The next two, but yeah, let's keep it to Verstappen and Bottas so people don't say that I'm biased.
You already said that you didn't like Verstappen, so we all know that you're biased.
Well, yeah, I don't like Verstappen, but I also want to keep appearances down.
Okay, then the next spots all the way we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now from 6, 7, and 8, you got Alonso, Tsunoda, and Perez.
Alonso, Tsunoda, and Perez. Well, the thing is that Perez didn't do much, though. I mean, I guess I'm gonna give it to Perez. I mean, he didn't do anything crazy, didn't do anything, amazing, but he still finished the race in second, which is exactly what you need to do as a Red Bull driver. So we can give it to him. Then I'm gonna go Alonso Yuki.
Then Alonso. And then Yuki. Okay, and then we're going for 9th and 10th place, which you have you have 3 people. So one of these is not gonna get any points. It's Kevin Magnussen, Sebastian Vettel, and Lance Stroll.
I feel like I wish I knew what the position was before the Stroll incident, but I think he was ahead. Under that assumption, I'm gonna say that Stroll first, then Vettel, then Magnussen, because unfortunately, at the end of the day, small mistake, but it was his mistake, and he ended up behind. So, yeah.
So Magnussen doesn't get the point.
No, he does not.
This time around. Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay. Well, next week in Monaco.
Mm-hmm.
So
Fun stuff. We talked about it. I don't think we need to rehatch it. So yeah. No, I'm pretty excited. I mean, Monaco is kind of like the boring race. It is my birthday weekend.
Nothing really happens all that much in Monaco. Maybe with the new cars, it's a little bit more exciting. And I think the other thing is like Monaco, I've learned to appreciate that it's not really a track where like a lot has to happen. It's just a track that challenges the drivers mentally. Yeah. Because they really need to be driving, like if they want to go fast and they want to win, and they really want to try to get the best result possible, you have to drive really fast, and that makes you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so that's like a track where you're accustomed to seeing like safety cars and all of that. So like it's exciting because the drivers can crash. But usually like nowadays drivers are so careful and they just are worrying about finishing that hasn't happened in the past few races in Monaco. Yeah. And it's just like you're just watching the same race over and over again. It is exciting in the terms of strategy that like when they come into the pits and Monaco is usually a one stop. Mm-hmm. And whoever so like they come into the pits once time into the race and then you're like, okay,
all right, now, that's it.
And that's it. And you're just hoping that that driver makes a mistake so we can see a safety car to spice it up.
Yeah,
but that's it.
Somehow, my prediction for the week is that we're going to see at least one safety car. That's my prediction. Otherwise, our prediction is probably like Ferrari is going to win. But I think that's I don't know.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, and I think anything can happen. So I'm not even 100% sure of that. So
maybe Mercedes. What I'm thinking is that a bold prediction is that I think Mercedes can win Monaco.
Mm-hmm. So I like it. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Yes. See you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, y'all.